What's going on, guys? It's a Bellator 274 preview, and I'm not going to lie, it completely slipped my mind. I know we got UFC this week. I think I got caught up in the PFL Challenger Series stuff, which terrible betting card, not even worth your time, to be perfectly honest with you. But Bellator's our baby, and I should have put more thought into this. So did my tape study, but I know the previews a little bit late, and I'm going to try to rifle through some of these fights for the most part. So starting off, we got Newman Gracie taking on Logan Storley. Current odds for it, you got Newman Gracie, the most famous Gracie, currently fighting at -175 versus Logan Storley plus 135. Honestly, I think there's value in the underdog here. We love wrestling. We love wrestling in every fight. A guy that can go out there and put on that pace. And I mean, what's there not to like about Logan Storley? 29 years old, still young, getting into his prime, trains out of Sanford MMA, one of the best camps in the world. But here's a guy that went, and I want to get it perfectly right because it's an atrocious number, like 262. In high school, he went 262-3 in 6 years of eligibility because his grade 7 and grade 8 year, he was wrestling the high school kids. So unbelievable high school wrestler, 4-time All-American at the D1 level in terms of his collegiate career. We know that he's got bona fide wrestling, but his MMA career, man, his low-key looked pretty good. Bellator does what they do best, match him up light for the early part, and he's got such a big grappling advantage. That's what he does, take them down, smashes them, till he runs into Yaroslav Amosov. So it's basically going to be for the number one contendership. He's taking on a guy that in Amosov, keep in mind, Amosov is like wrestling kryptonite. He's got wins over, well, not that Douglas Lima is a wrestler, but Logan Storley, Ed Root, 3-time national champion, right? Dave Rickles, Gerald Harris, standout collegiate wrestler. And any of those fights, you watch guys try to take him down, and it's like he's got some of the best takedown defense in the game. So Logan Storley's primary weapon, not really useful against Amosov. But outside of that, man, he's got a grind that he can put on guys that we like. It's a split decision against an undefeated guy who's probably the best guy on Bellator's roster. I think there's a lot to like. This follow-up win over Dante Shiro, it's a split decision. Now, the first 2 rounds, he completely wrestles his face off. It's easy money. It's no problem. I'm not sure at what point one of the judges gave one of those first 2 rounds to Shiro, but in the third round, yeah, Logan Storley didn't look all that good. And this is a 5-round fight. We need him to go pedal to the metal for the whole time. So I think because the last 2 fights haven't been necessarily spectacular, that you're getting a plus 135 line on him. But he's going to have a significant wrestling advantage over Newman Gracie. In terms of completing the takedowns and not getting caught in some Gracie submission, it's not 1993 anymore. I don't think Gracie's so good off his back that he's going to catch Logan Storley with some triangle choke and some armbar. More than likely, Logan Storley, slight striking advantage. Keep the fights, maybe not even. Beyond that, dictate where you want the fight to take place. If you want to strike with him, strike with him. Maybe you can chip away there. If you want to take the fight to the ground, take the fight to the ground. Pass to half guard, stay there. Stay out of the way of the meaningful ground and pound. Stay out of the way of the meaningful submission attempts. And I think Logan Storley could chip away. So, listen, it's plus 135. It's the main event. For me personally, I'm going to play my tickets. So when I get to the main event, if I had Gracie, I would hedge out. If I didn't have anything, I'm going to take a small shot on the underdog here in Logan Storley. I'm not saying this is the pick of the week. I'm not saying it's the underdog of the week. I'm saying it's a good enough price tag. And not just to talk about Storley, flip side to Newman Gracie. Low key, he's 33 years old, so I don't think he's getting marginally better. I think what he is exactly that. The game has changed to the fact that there's none of these grapplers that are just so above the rest of the pack that they can just pull guard and submit guys. Like, you don't want to be spending time on your back. He has improved dramatically in the striking department. But his losses to Rory McDonald and Jason Jackson, he looks flat. He gets out grappled, right? So this is a great chance for Storley to go put pressure on him, break him, tire him out, make him look flat, and out grapple him. I've seen crazier things happen, and I'm going to go with Logan Storley plus 135. Moving down to the co-main event, we got Andre Koreshkov versus Chance Rencountre. Koreshkov is minus 325, 375 currently. Come back on Chance Rencountre plus 265. So you'd love to just go Koreshkov. You'd love to just spam bet Koreshkov, and to a certain extent, going to have some shares of Koreshkov. But this one makes me worried, man. It makes me have a slight sense of a potential apple pie shit. And that's because Koreshkov, ultra talented, but certain fights, the Lorenzo fight, his last time against Sabah Hamasi, I thought he largely lost the first round until he got going late. There's spots of inactivity in him that you could maybe pick up on. I don't think he's the end-all be-all. Again, wins over Sabah Hamasi, Adriano Rodriguez, Mike Jasper, Vaso Bakovic, Chijin Jaquani. That one looks good now. But for the most part, he hasn't really been the Koreshkov of old. His game hasn't really been elevated to any new heights. His grappling didn't get any better. I like the style that he fights. It's just a guy like that is prone to get caught. And the thing with Chance Rencountre, for all the faults that he has, dude's live as an underdog. He proved that in the UFC. I had zero expectations for him. He comes in on short notice against Bilal Muhammad and goes the distance. Well, in hindsight, again, that looks pretty good. Lost to Bilal Muhammad on a short notice in your UFC debut. Not so bad. Wins over Kyle Stewart and Ismail Nordiev. I think he cashes dog tickets as both of them. He's plus 140 against Kyle Stewart, and he chokes him out in the first round. Nice performance. He's got good grappling. The Ismail Nordiev fight, he's a plus 400 underdog. But you sleep on this guy, he's crafty. He's got a good gas tank, decent enough durability, like put him away early. But if you don't put him away in that first round, that kind of durability, keep coming at you, and he's crafty with his ground game. 400 ticket he just hit. And then he fights Lyman Good, which I get no shame in that. A former Bellator champion, a guy that I have no idea how he passes his USADA test, but the UFC cuts him after a 2-2 run. Like, there's worse guys on the roster, and he proves that. He goes out and he beats Cliff Wright, and he beats Jake Lindsay, a UFC veteran. So he's 2-0 since he's been cut from the UFC. Both of those wins are by submission. We know he's crafty there. We know he's got a good gas tank. He's the kind of guy that's a lot more dangerous than his line would indicate. So I don't know that I'm outright picking Chance Rencountre. It's just I can see that there's some danger there. And plus minus 375 for Koreshkov, you have the sense of let's just throw him right at the top of the ticket, right? I mean, pretty safe, almost 4-1. And Chance Rencountre, not that bad. That's what I'm saying. So maybe a pass or just keep Koreshkov lower on. Georgi Karakhanyan versus Adam Piccolotti. Adam Piccolotti, sizable enough favorite, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, minus 350 favorite over Georgi Karakhanyan. Again, this is just not a price tag I can get behind. I used to really like Piccolotti, thought this kid was ultra talented. He ran right through Ray Wood, who was a pretty decent prospect at the time, and then he beats up Brandon Gertz, who's a journeyman type guy for Bellator. But Piccolotti's young, his grappling looks quick, crafty, opportunistic. They match him up against Goiti Yamauchi, who's very much the similar young grappling wizard. Goiti just cuts right through him. So it showed that there was levels, and Piccolotti wasn't quite at that highest level. He has a subsequent loss to Dave Rickles, which he got grinded out on. That's a bad loss. Wins over to Carrington Banks and James Terry. Not bad to me. James Terry, Strikeforce veteran, aged AKA guy, and Carrington Banks, cleat wrestler, Black Zillion, Ultimate Fighter veteran. So they're not terrible wins, but when they bump him back up against Benson Henderson, he gets grinded again. Loses a split decision. Not a great fight. Bad fight. But guys that are more physical than him and are able to just grind him up against the cage have lots of success. So those are his 3 losses right there. But that last one against Sydney Outlaw, the most frustrating thing that you'll ever watch if you were back in Piccolotti, which for the record, Piccolotti was a minus 175 favorite. Sydney, way too strong for him. Pins him up against the cage. Takes him down when he wants to. Takes the guy's soul. Reads a split decision. Should not have been a split decision. Piccolotti got muscled around again. And that's become a trend. So the issue with Georgi Karakhanyan is getting older, but so veteran savvy, and he loves to grind guys up right up against the cage. So Piccolotti could be in situations where he's getting out-muscled in the clinch, out-muscled up against the cage, and just slowly falling behind on the judges' scorecards. If the takedown does get completed, fair advantage to maybe both guys, but they're both BJJ black belts, I'm pretty sure. So it's not like it's one clear avenue or the other. As far as striking goes, Piccolotti, not a great striker, and Georgi doesn't have the volume these days that, you should to just win a striking battle. But again, he's effective in the clinch. So if he dirty boxes him, presses him up against the cage, looks good to the judges, you got to upset in the making. And at minus 350, Piccolotti's another guy that could be your potential apple pie shitter of the week. Brendan Ward versus Brendan Bell. Brendan Ward, minus 600 favorite against Brendan Bell, who is a plus 385. Yeah, you completely understand it. So the quick story here on Brendan Ward, who's now 33 years old, low-key. Guy wrestled collegiately and was like a wrestling powerhouse, not an All-American, not this and that, but was a good, solid wrestler. Transitions to MMA and doesn't really have a camp behind him, but is just pure athletic talent, and he bulldozes a guy's quick times. Bellator signs him up, and he would look really good a lot of the time and then have these really bad performances. So first career loss to Aaron Johnson, 15 seconds. Tex Johnson, 15-second armbar. Pretty embarrassing. Second career loss, he loses to Alexander Shlemenko. It was a tournament final. Made to the tournament final, was looking good, but then loses to Tamdan Ricori, the Barn Cat, UFC veteran, in knockout 21 seconds, right? Just gets clipped with a 3-piece, bang, 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 standing, and just crumples over the ground. So maybe he's got a suspect chin. Maybe he's got a suspect cardio. Who knows? It seems like when he gets to that high point, he falls apart. Turns out he's got a raging methamphetamine addiction, and he just doesn't train, doesn't go to the gym, doesn't have sparring partners, just smokes meth, and shows up, needs money, signs the bout agreement, shows up, and actually has some not bad success. So there's a very interesting article about him going to Japan, and when he gets there, he's just like, I don't got any pain medication, which I'm hooked on. So he goes to these seedy neighborhoods in Japan and tries to buy shit off guys on the streets, and shows up and beats Ken Hasagawa. It's like, holy shit. Then he comes back to Bellator, and he is my personal boy. He's a minus 465 over my boy Evangelista Cyborg Santos. He's nearly a 5-1 favorite, and he gets heel hooked in 30 seconds. Like, that's Brandon Ward. You can't trust him. So when you see minus 600, the thing is like, you can't really trust him. But he went on a bad run. He's lost his last 2 fights for Bellator. They briefly flirted with the idea of cutting him. Apparently, he's got his life back together. He's been sober for a while now. He's in with a good camp. He says he's rededicated. He's got the passion for the game. And listen, this is a guy that can wrestle, can hit like an absolute hammer. He is chinny, but he's got all the goods. He just needs to keep himself on the straight and narrow. Hasn't had a fight in like 4 years. So at minus 600, the red flags are all there. But Bellator has gone ahead and got him Brendan Bell, a guy who's 10-10. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's actually got a win over a friend of mine, Tom Theocares. But yeah, realistically, he's 1-3 since 2018. So over the last 5 years, he's got a 1-3 record. Of those losses, knocked out 10 seconds into the third, knocked out by Quentin Parks, neck crank, which you never see, against Yemi Odewale, and then Sean Connor Fallon, 3rd-round Darce choke. They know what they're doing. They're bringing in a guy who's got a soft record, loses his fights inside the distance, doesn't have a ton of durability to stretch Brendan Ward late, and they want Brendan Ward to come out here, have a feel-good moment, win, hopefully get some confidence back, stay on that path of sobriety, and then maybe they can work with something down in the road. So, yeah, I would say we're going to play Brendan Ward. But you just listen to everything I said. So again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Should win, could win, definitely has the skills to win. Bellator's matching him up to get the victory, but he has always been his own worst enemy, and he is a tad bit chinny. So MMA is a bitch. What can you do? Moving on, we got Davion Franklin versus Saeed Sowma. Davion Franklin from Jackson Wink is plus 155 to come back on Sowma. Minus 193. I guess the days of getting underdog money on Saeed Sowma are long gone. Listen, he's kind of small for heavyweight, 6 foot, 240 pounds. But when you're trading at American Top Team, you're getting around to the best guys on the planet all the time. You're going to make vast improvements. Saeed's been floating under the radar, but he's one of these guys that's durable enough to go 3 rounds. And if you fade at any point, could take advantage. So his fight with Tyrell Fortune, we'll just start from his last 3, but it's a loss, unanimous decision. Bullshit decision. And people like Tyrell Fortune, but he starts off, he gets taken down in the first, and then when Fortune starts to get tired, it's all Saeed. He lands all the significant strikes. He out-volumes him. He outlasts him. Should have got the decision. Judges disagreed, but that's still a good feather in his cap. You could tell he was going to make improvements from there. The Ronnie Marquez fight, he knocks out Ronnie Marquez a minute 9 in. Ronnie Marquez, former middleweight, shouldn't be fighting at heavyweight to begin with, but a good win for Saeed Sowma. And then we cashed a hell of a ticket. Him, Vitaly Minikov, plus 245. Again, this is another situation where he loses the first round, and then in the second round, he's working his way back in. Officially, Minikov dislocates his finger and looks to the judge, and he's just kind of like, I dislocated my finger. Once you look at, not the judge, the ref, once you signal to the ref, I can't continue, something's going on, they stop the fight, man. That's what happens. They stop the fight. But Saeed was winning the second round, and it was just a moment. He had broken the former champion Minikov, and he was doing an excellent job. He was going to win that fight. He was well on his way. It was a good dog ticket. He was on the right side of it. And now you got him as a 2-1 favorite. So he's our low-key guy that we like backing low-key. Because, again, he doesn't wrestle high level. He doesn't strike high level. He's got Homer Simpson effect. He's durable. He'll take the beating in the first round, and then if you get tired, he'll come back on you. I think that will be enough to beat Davion Franklin, but we just don't know for sure. Franklin is a former training partner of John Jones out of Jackson Wink over in Albuquerque. Physical specimen, got all the tools. He's just super green, and Jackson Wink is super high on him. Bellator's super high on him, but they bring him in against J.W. Kaiser. Look that one up if you want a quick laugh. What a joke. And he wins it in a minute 40. He's supposed to. His next fight against Raz Hilton, I didn't think he looked great, but of course he wins the fight, technical decision, gets the victory, moves his career forward. Tyler King, wow, what a tailor-made fight for him, and just Tyler King should not be operating, not at this level, but probably at any level. You know he's a BJJ black belt, so just stick to grappling, but so many concussions, former football player too, and Ultimate Fighter vet, so many concussions, quick ones too, shouldn't be fighting. So it all looks good. In his last fight against Everett Cummings, the dude's 15-0. He's 15-0. He might be the worst 15-0 fighter you've ever seen. Most ballooned up record. Shows up 2 weight classes down from Davion Franklin, and he rolls him up in 21 seconds. So here's his issue, is that you've seen him fight a minute 40 against a bum, 2 minutes against a bum, 21 seconds against a bum, and I guess Raz Hilton was his toughest opponent. What, he's 6-4? That was 2 years ago? The guy's no made no real advancement. He's not fighting 3 times a year, not like Jalon Bates we'll talk about. He's not getting all these reps in. He's not increasing his level of opponent. And now all of a sudden it's like fight Said Sowma, guy that just knocked out the former world champion and Vitaly Minakov, 2-fight winning streak, fought in much better guys than this. It's an odd pairing. Said should win the fight, but this guy's long, and maybe he's just so good we just haven't seen it yet. I don't know. And my brain is going to go the other way. He's going to get tested for the first time, and it's going to go well for him, but that remains to be seen. So the pick will be Said Sowma. Just struggling to really love it, I suppose. Nallo versus Nick Browne. Nallo. Where is Nallo? You know, I think this is the one my book wasn't offering. Well, that's a shame. That's a shame. I'm not 100% sure what he is. I would guess, if I had to guess. Oh, yeah, okay. They say he's minus 160. And I was going to guess about minus 180, minus 200. I think he's deservedly the favorite. Just Nick Browne, there's a little bit of unknown. So with Nallo, Paul Shaughnessy and I were actually at this guy's pro debut, 2012 against Joseph Latour. Goes out there and just kills a guy. Kills a motherfucker. And we see him at a McDonald's like a couple hours later. He didn't eat anything. He's with his buddies. They're eating. He's super young. He's like 19 years old. And I remember being like, this guy's going to be something. He diced a dude, goes out with his buddies afterwards. They're all young. They're all partying. They're all drinking. He never drank. He never had a McDouble. Those are 2 very difficult things to turn down as a young individual. He turned them both down. I thought this guy was going to be sky's the limit. His problem is he fought that one time in 2012. Didn't fight in 2013. 2 fights in 2014. 1 fight in 2015. 1 fight in 2016, 1 fight in 2017, 1 fight in 2018, 1 fight in 2019, 1 fight in 2020, 1 fight in 2021. This is to be his first fight, probably his last fight of 2022. He just doesn't fight enough. So he's like a star pupil at a TriStar. Faraza Hobby's put a lot of work in this guy. I just don't think Faraza Hobby's that great of a coach to begin with. And I don't really know the level of training partners he has in the gym currently. He's also 32 years old. So his days of being this young kid prospect have kindly low-key faded by him, but I still think he's very talented. Now you look at wins over Carrington Banks, he absolutely just kills him in the second round. Takedown defense looked good there. Striking is obviously very surgical. He's not going to go throw a ton of volume. He's not going to throw a ton of power. What he does throw is very precise. Looks like he's got the goods. Then he runs into Achilles Mota. Achilles Mota just leg kicked him all night, butchered him up pretty bad. I thought it was a very flat performance for Mandel, and eventually got stopped in the third round, but I think that was a moment I realized he wasn't going to be a world champion. He wasn't going to be anything special. Dude fights once a year, and he just lost Achilles Mota, which is not a terrible loss, but it just wasn't a very good outing for him. And then the Sadawad fight, this should get him back in the win column. This is a tailor-made fight for him and his skill set. You know, clip the old man in a wad, and accidental eye poke turns out into a no contest. And because he's only fighting once a year, now he's got a loss of no contest over the stretch of 2 years, just doesn't look good. In his last fight against Ricardo Sexas, he looks fucking awesome. Just absolutely picks him apart, pieces him up, knocks him out with a Superman punch. Looks awesome. And then takes off 10 months. He's 10 months now to this fight. Like, what the hell, man? So getting a read on him is increasingly difficult because he just fights so infrequently, and the version that shows up could be world-class or it could be a little bit flat. And that's what happens when you don't compete all that often. Your timing's a little bit off, and just the other guy gets a quick start. Like, I don't know. Browne, meanwhile, he was a pretty good 7-1 amateur. He started off his career well, beat Sidney Outlaw, beat Jeff Dents, beat Pretty Boy Troy Lamson. Those are 3 solid regional show victories. Lose to John Gunther, you could do without that one. And then since then, he's been pretty solid. His last 2 in particular, Bobby Lee and Arthur Estrazula, decent enough level of competition, and you can see that he's got good grappling. Like, Bobby Lee's a solid enough wrestler out of Minnesota, and he snatches up a heel hook minute 38. Got solid grappling. I would think that's where he's going to prefer to get this fight. And I don't think he takes down Nallo. Nallo, meanwhile, better striker. Stayed at the outside, picked this guy apart. One thing is, looking at his losses, he's never been knocked out. He's got 1 single pro loss to John Gunther in which he got grinded. So if Mandel doesn't score this quick knockout, he's stuffing takedowns. He's going to probably have to do that for the course of the 15 minutes. Not get tired, not fall apart, not give Nick Browne a path to victory, which is probably get the takedown going and get his grappling going. So I'm going to go with Nallo. It's minus 160, so it's going to juice up a lot of things. But again, if it sounds like I'm lacking some confidence in some of these favorites, well, it's because they should win, but there are those asterisks and those unknowns. Jalon Bates versus Chris Disonell. Jalon Bates, I believe, is a minus 1,100, and comeback on Disonell is plus 600. Yeah, I mean, Jalon Bates, everybody's baby now for sure. This guy looked just like a super whiz as a amateur. Recorded 9-0, turns pro. Belt signs him up right away. They give him this Josephino. The kid's long. Jalon Bates has got a ton of leverage to him. He's got a funky style, but none of these guys are prepared for it. And he just dominates them. Jeffrey Glosner, guy that had wrestled collegiately, same thing. I mean, he's out wrestling the wrestler. He puts him in a lot of bad positions and then eventually gets the modified team choke in the second. But pure domination. Fight with Cody Matthews, more pure domination. Second round armbar. Fight with Rafael Montini's last time out, pure domination in a first round armbar. He's so long. He loves snatching up that limb. Prefers to go for the armbar. But the guy can kind of do it all. Now, does he have a great chin? I don't know. None of these guys have really hit him. Does he have great durability? I don't know, but it doesn't seem like he's slowing down. Like he beats these guys pretty spectacular fashion. And by the way, I've seen him overwork, like especially in, say, the Glosner fight or maybe the Supino fight. He'll score 10 takedowns, and it just doesn't really seem to gas him. He's young. I think he's 25 years old. He's currently between amateur and pro in a 13-fight winning streak. He recently moved from ATT Portland over down to Las Vegas, where he gets reps in. Has also spent some time with the main ATT camp. What's there not to like out of Jalon Bates? But again, when you are young and you're undefeated and you've never really been tested, eventually that test will come. And you don't fully know how they're going to handle the adversity until you see them in a bad spot. So the real question now is Chris Disonell going to be the guy to put him in a bad spot? Well, he's not terrible, to be honest with you. Bellator had brought him in to fight Mike Kimball once upon a time, and he was a decent enough underdog. Pulled the victory there with the ground and pound. But since then, you can see in these fights with Will Smith and Turpal Kamaziev, he wins them. He's more predicated on his own grappling. He wants to get a takedown of his own. He's not a guy that's just going to go out there, I don't think, and then clip him and get the knockout. Although it's possible and it is MMA, I think he's going to have to out-grapple Jalon Bates, and I just don't see that happening. So I think they know they got a hot prospect, and similar to AJ McKee, they didn't just let AJ McKee go 5-0, 6-0 and throw him in against the men. They allowed him to go 10-0, 15-0. By the time he started fighting for world titles and fighting guys that were actually ranked in the division, he was already like 15, 16-0, but he was way mature and he was good to go. Jalon Bates has a lot of similarities to AJ McKee with that funky style and his ability to use leverage to get submission victories. So I really like him. At minus 1,100, he's not really adding a ton. But if you're going to add him and the Jordan Newmans of the world and some of these other big favorites and coincide that with a couple of UFC favorites and coincide that with Conan Silvera's son on the Challenger Series, then like, I guess it adds a little bit of value the bigger the ticket is overall. Aviv Gozali versus Bobby King. Aviv Gozali is like minus 240 range, I want to say. He is officially... Where's Aviv Gozali? Aviv Gozali is minus 290. The comeback on Bobby King plus 220. This could potentially be another trap line because you've got another kid who's just a super whiz kid with a submission game. The difference between him and Jalon Bates is that Bates has a long amateur career. Bates has fought in a little bit level of higher competition. He's older. He's 25. Gozali's only 21. That 4 years is pretty monumental as far as I'm concerned. And with Bates, you've seen him go some more rounds. You've seen him keep up his pace. And he's got the wrestling in his back pocket. It's not just a submission guy. He can wrestle as well. Gozali seems like the real deal in the case that he's born in the year 2000. The guy's November 29th of 2000. He's 21 years old. He's super young. His father was a BJJ black belt, an excellent BJJ black belt out of Israel. And this kid's been doing jiu-jitsu since he was a very small infant. When he fights in MMA, it's like, does his striking look good? I don't know. Does his wrestling look good? I don't know. But he has an ability to either pull guard, throw to a 50-50 position, many ways like a Ryan Hall, right? Not quite as quirky as Ryan Hall, but he doesn't mind just settling for a 50-50 position because he'll just roll for your leg. And then what are your options? Defend the leg or give up your back. And then he'll take your back. And it's just worked out increasingly well for him. Bellator used to go to Israel routinely, and they would just showcase him against nobodies, and he would smash them, right? So first round armbar, first round rear naked choke, an 11-second heel hook from an Imanari roll, 56-second anaconda choke, a first-round Kimura, and in his last fight against Sean Felton, a first-round heel hook. That's what he does, man. He just rolls for these submission attempts, and if he gets them, which he's been doing against low-level guys, he's live. If he doesn't get it, I don't know that he can fight into the second round. He fights a hectic pace. Don't know that he can fight a second round. Don't know if he's not going to be one of these guys that either wins in the first or fades and shits in the apple behind the second. And the unique thing against Bobby King is that he's 38 years old, but he is a BJJ black belt. On top of that, he's never been submitted. So you're going to go out and submit a savvy veteran. He's 38. He's a black belt. He's got 14. This would be his 15th pro fight. Might not be as easy as you'd like it to be. And on top of that, his last 3 fights, we'll say, he submits Steven Siler. Shit, dude, that's a nice win. Siler, obviously UFC veteran, PFL veteran, submission artist in his own right. It's a 4th round submission because he didn't tire and he subbed him. Holy fuck, that's a decent win, especially if we're talking grappler versus grappler. Next fight against Nick Newell. Nick Newell has one hand. So beating him is just one of those things that's never going to look all that good for you, especially when it reads a split decision. But he outlasted Nick Newell, and he actually did out-grapple him. He stuffed the takedown attempts. When the fight did hit the ground, he was in control. Says split, shouldn't have been, should have been unanimous. King, and by the way, King cash on that one as he was only plus 105. Then his last fight against Alexander Shibili, Russian talent, he got taken down in every single round and could not do shit off his back. Doesn't matter that he's a black belt. It did not matter. He got dominated. Pillar to post from Shibili, who was pretty much at no point in any type of danger. And King's corner the entire time was urging him, like, please do something. And there was absolutely nothing out of him. Looked super flat in that performance. So again, if he comes out here and he gets taken down early by Gozali has his way with him and submits him, easy money. All right, let's go. And it's only minus 290. But if Gozali takes him down and doesn't submit him, then you risk the chance that he's going to start getting tired. And also, Shabili's a Russian wrestler, so like he can take down King over and over whenever he wants. But can Gozali do that, or is he just going to roll for a leg and try to make something happen? It could be a risky proposition, especially because Bobby King he's known about this fight for quite some time. So you would think that he'd be extensively working on his jiu-jitsu, and he might have a slight striking advantage. So get a bad impression out of that one, to be honest with you. Deanna Bennett versus Justine Kish. Justine Kish is currently, I think, minus 135. Kish is. Come on, Kish. Give me that Kish. Minus 135. Come back on Deanna Bennett plus 110. I agree with it. I actually like it. Again, it could be a bad position, but I always thought Justine Kish was a little bit better than you fully saw out of her. Like when she was on The Ultimate Fighter, even prior to that, I had seen her fight Ronda Marcos on the regional scene for RFA years and years ago. She is physically strong, man. My God. Born in Russia, got caught in a rear naked choke in the 3rd. So there's always moments that you can like. And I think that she'd fill in way better against their roster. So again, she is 33. But coming in against 37-year-old Deanna Bennett, I really think Deanna Bennett's had her best days. She used to be a contender back in the Invicta days, lost to Olivia Souza. That one looks awful in hindsight. Roxanne Modafferi, that looks pretty bad in hindsight. Jodie Escobel, that looks really bad in hindsight. And she's hit and miss. She loses to Kelly Cobalt, hadn't fought in 10 years, and was 40 years old, but then beats Miranda Maverick. Like, holy shit. You were on a career tailspin, and you beat Miranda Maverick. Loses her very next fight to Karina Rodriguez. No, she can't build the momentum. Then they reboot the Miranda Maverick fight. She starts off well, but gets caught in a rear naked choke in the 3rd. Bellator, she gets caught in a rear naked choke by Liz Carmouche. Actually was 1-1 going into the 3rd with Liz Carmouche and got caught in a rear naked choke again. So she's another fighter where there's always these moments, but she just relies on just grinding against low-level opposition up the cage and hoping they get tired. And I don't think Kish is going to get tired. I don't think she's going to be strong enough to just hold Kish against the cage for the entire time. And Kish, as rugged and reckless as she is at times, is a better striker. So I think she's just going to box her up and prevent the takedowns by way of, if they do get in the clinch, she should be able to muscle her around, disengage, and box her up again. Kish knows she needs a win. Bennett kind of coasts at times, and I honestly think this one's going to come together. It's minus 135. You could do a lot worse than that. It's women's MMA, guys. But I think I've pointed out 3 of these big favorites that are all potential apple pie shitters. One of them are going to screw it up. Kish might be low-key adding a ton of value and be a little safer than one of these big unknowns. At least from her, you know what you're going to get. Whereas from some of these iffy prospects, you're assuming this is what you might get. What can you do? Jordan Newman versus Cody Herbert. Jordan Newman is a minus 800 favorite. Cody Herbert, meanwhile, is plus 500. With good reason. Jordan Newman's another one of these just absolute super stud wrestlers. You can go on about his All-American credentials. You can go on about this and that. The main thing is he's an excellent wrestler, and Bellator has a way of signing these guys straight out of college. It's not like the UFC where you need to go 5-0, 6-0, get in the Contender Series, fight a guy. Like, they'll just take you straight out of college. You want to fight? Perfect. Let's go. And that's what they're doing. Beats Joseph Holmes, unanimous decision. Riley Miller, unanimous decision. Branko Busick, elbows due to crucifix. Sorry, the second one versus Riley Miller was actually hammer fist in the first. He's not one to just get the takedown and coast. He gets the takedown and he goes ham and he beats them up. And another one of these Jalon Bates types in that, how good's his cardio? Well, he's only 3-0, but like looks good. Looks like one of these kids that gets the takedown when he wants to take down and then proceeds to just absolutely smash his opponents until they say no mas. A different organization might throw a kid like that in a little too heavy. Bellator is not really one to do that. They're going to book you along pretty soft. And that's kind of what they've done here. Cody Herbert reads a 2-0 record. But he's a boxer. He's a boxer out of Florida. And I just think that styles really do make fights. Like as an amateur, he rocked a 4-6 record, right? Turned pro in 2019, lost a boxing match, beat Blake Signey, shows a 4-1 record's bad, beats an 0-11 opponent by unanimous decision late 2020. And then he signed up with George Masvidal's Gamebred FC. It's bare knuckle MMA. Loses his first fight to John Vaughn's Ross by triangle. Ross is actually pretty good, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And then he picks a win over James Freeman by rear naked choke. Freeman, not that good. So what do you got out of him? You got a guy that's scrappy, former pro boxer, doesn't mind fighting with the gloves off, but for the most part, he's a little bit lackluster in his takedown defense and his overall submission defense. And I think that Newman's just going to take him down. Why bother standing with the pro boxer? Why bother standing with the bare knuckle guy? Well, why would you not just take him down? And the takedowns will be easy money here. Take them down and just smash. So he's 300 points less than Jalon Bates, and I almost like him more, man. I mean, I think this is a perfectly set up fight for him. I guess the difference is he's only 3-0, and again, similar to Bates, he's never been punched in the face hard. So can he get hit? That remains to be seen, but I don't know that this is the time he gets punched in the face hard. Corey Samuels versus Justin Montalvo. Justin Montalvo is, I believe, a minus 425. Corey Samuels plus 295. Again, when you look at a card that's got a minus 800 favorite on it, it's got a minus 1100 favorite on it. Brendan Ward, you're assuming he put down the meth pipe, and he's a minus 600 favorite. Justin Montalvo, low key, minus 425. That could actually be an excellent play indeed. Kid looks good. He's at a Serra-Longo in New York, and he's very much one of these tough, durable, grappling, heavy fighters. We like grapplers. We like guys that are fighting guys who are not great grapplers, but at this low level, it usually does come down to one guy's got better wrestling, better jiu-jitsu, and that's what'll win the small regional show fight, this small little, feeder fight. I think that's what he should do here. As an amateur, he took his licks here and there, lost to the same guy both times, and the guy wasn't great, but again, he took his licks. It's what he's done as a pro, so his fight versus, you can watch them on Fight Pass if you want, but the Ring of Combat 71, Douglas Labasso, this is his pro debut. What can you expect out of it? But, grappling looks good in this fight. Charlie Radke, man, grappling looked really good in that fight. His cardio looked good. His pace looked good. This looked like a kid that could go out there, get a hold of you, and put a bruise in. Bellator signs up. He's 3-0. They give him Jacob Bond. So Jacob Bond's 10-7. I wouldn't call him a savvy veteran because he's fought very low level. Guy that's out of the upstate New York regional scene. But Bonds doesn't quit on himself. He can go 3 rounds, and he's kind of savvy in his own way. Like, he will throw up submission attempts. I really liked what I saw to Justin Montalvo. He neutralized him whenever he needed to. He made it look really good, really clean. And again, this is a kid that's only 4-0 in his pro career and 25 years old overall. He's training at a gym that produces Aljamain Sterling, Merab Dvalishvili, the Steamroller. Like, there's a lot of good guys in his weight class with similar enough styles. He's just going to benefit a tremendous amount. In terms of his striking getting better, he's got Ray Longo there, so there's no reason to believe that he's not making strides. And again, at 25 years old, shit looks pretty good. Corey Samuels, meanwhile, this one's excellent. So again, we've got a legitimate Serra-Longo guy out of New York, great camp, great training partners, good enough regional show career, amateur show career, turns pro, undefeated, signed to Bellator, looks good in his debut. That's all good stuff. Now you got Corey Samuels, right? So Corey Samuels starts off his amateur career. He loses a decision, right? Second fight, loses submission, first round, minute 17 in, right? Then he gets knocked out, 216 in the first round. Then he loses by second round TKO. Then he loses a decision, then another one, then a split, then unanimous. And then finally, on a Florida regional scene, 2016, a full 2.5 years after he started fighting, he wins his first amateur fight. He effectively goes 1-9 as an amateur. Turns pro, coming off that first amateur win. Maybe he's wrote the ship. And he beats Asim Zaidi. Shit, dude's now 1-1. That was a disqualification victory. The other dude got disqualified, hands him the win. And then he goes back to his old ways. Michael Rodriguez, second round guillotine choke loss. Dean Barry, 1-1, knocks him out in the first round. He picks up a triangle choke victory, and then Bellator brings him in straight up feeder opposition for Isaiah Hokit. He comes in, Corey Samuels, as a plus 450 underdog. He is a dead man walking. But here's the thing. Hokit is a former wrestling standout. He's a guy that's making his pro debut, no amateur fights, never been punched square in the face. So the fight starts. Corey Samuels walks in, punches him one single time in the face. Hokit goes to sleep. 10 seconds in. So on one hand, you can look at Samuels and be like, whoa, this is a guy that's going to ruin tickets. This is a guy that's a live underdog. I think it was right place, right time. He's had a terrible amateur career. He's had a very, very, very lackluster pro career. Bellator brought him in to get smoked. And he just happened to pull a victory over a 0-0 guy who got punched in the face for the first time. Well, now he's got to take on Justin Montalvo, who's the guy that had 7 amateur fights, 4 pro fights, trains out of an excellent gym, and has the grappling advantage. He's just going to take him down. He's going to beat him up. Not only should it be Montalvo, should be Montalvo inside the distance. MMA is a crazy sport. Anything can happen. But again, he's a much better sized favorite than a lot of the other guys on the card. And I like him. I think this is a great matchup for him. I think he goes out there and I think he rolls. Speaking of Isaiah Hokit, because we've got him next. He's taking on Theodore Macuka. And you've got Isaiah Hokit coming in. He's a big favorite, by the way. Minus 325 versus Theodore Macuka plus 245. So Isaiah Hokit, it was never a D1 All-American. He never wrestled in some big fancy program. He never actually had a standout collegiate career, but he wrestled at college. He's also got, I think his cousin plays in the NFL. He was a walk-on for the 49ers. His brother was a former All-American. Like, it's a talented family. He looks like a good wrestler. And then he gets up with Team Body Shop over in California with Antonio McKee. It's like, I love the camp. I love his backstory, great family pedigree, good wrestling background. So it's like natural assumption that he would have beaten Corey Samuels. But going in, and I said the same thing going into that fight, who knows if this guy can take a punch or not? You've never seen it. Not in an amateur fight, not in a pro fight. They say he's got an MMA-friendly wrestling style from his collegiate career. But like, it wasn't even that good of a collegiate career. So I don't know. It was such a trap spot. And he got punched in the face one time, got knocked out 10 seconds. So officially they gave enough time to clear his head. Officially that was like 8 months ago. So I don't know. Does he now suddenly have the ability to take a punch? Like, at least he knows what he's going into, but he got no round time and he fought for 10 seconds. He made the walk. That's the most experience he got out of it. He made the walk and he woke up backstage, but what in good conscience could I say anything good about him? He's got the wrestling. We already knew that. He can't take a punch. Meanwhile, Theodore Macuka, he's a Taekwondo black belt. He's like used to medal in these Taekwondo competitions back in the day, like nothing super high level, but he does have the striking base. Comes into Bellator and if you watch his regional show stuff, and it's very hard to find, he looks very, very, very bad. He is a striker. He's got that Taekwondo bounce to him, but there's not a whole lot there. And wrestlers would be easy money against a guy like that. Cody Law, who's just a tremendous talent for Bellator. And again, another guy that's a 3-time All-American, excellent wrestler. Cody Law just buzzsaws right through him using that game plan. This next fight against Damon Wilson, he gets knocked out in 11 seconds. Right hook, boom, hits the ground. What good have you seen from him? He got knocked out in 11 seconds. Hokit got knocked out in 10. Hokit can at least wrestle. And this guy doesn't seem like he can, but Hokit might not be able to take a punch. And at least this guy's spent a considerable amount of time throwing punches and kicks. Like, if I'm Antonio McKee, a wrestler, my son's a wrestler, I'm a wrestling heavy camp, and I know Hokit can't take a punch, 100% the game plan is get the takedown. In the last fight, he'd be like, hey, work your striking a little bit, pump your jab, because you don't know. Second you seen him get punched, knocked out, the very first one that landed, I think at that point it would have been like, okay, dude, no more punchy kicky, straight takedown. And if you know that's his game plan and he has the wrestling advantage, then he should win. But at minus 325, if you're looking for a pie shitter, he's another one of these guys that could most definitely fit the bill. And finally, we've got Orlando Mendoza versus Jonathan De Lorenzo. Honestly, I looked at this card a little bit late because, again, I totally forgot it was happening. Can't tell you much about this one. What I can tell you is this Orlando Mendoza. I watched his Bellator debut. He was coming off like the Florida regional show, and if you watch those fights, he likes to stand, he likes to strike. Is he a great striker? No, but that was where his preferred comfort zone would be. This John McNeil looks just like an absolute tyrant. I don't think he's fought since. No, he hasn't even fought since. He was like herky-jerky farm boy, get a hold of you, rip you to the ground, and absolutely beat the crap out of you. I loved what I saw from the regional show, and he made his debut against Mendoza. It was even money pick. We took Big John McNeil, and sure enough, he got a hold of Mendoza and tossed him around. But Mendoza had the striking advantage, just not physically strong enough. And his takedown defense didn't look terrible, just not physically strong enough. So I don't think he was all that bad. Jonathan Di Lorenzo, meanwhile, he's 4-0 on a decent enough regional show career. What am I saying? He's 4-0 on a good amateur circuit, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So he's probably beaten some decent enough guys. I haven't had time to watch it. But again, when you're competing for CFFC, PA Cage Fight out of Pennsylvania, those are good enough organizations. Make his debut for Premier again. So he's hanging out the same regional show. He picks up a unanimous decision over Sage Phillips. I hear his wrestling's okay. I hear his grappling's okay. I would say if this remains standing, I would lean towards Mendoza with the striking advantage. But again, Mendoza, the path of victory is laid out. Get a hold of him, muscle him against the cage. You don't want any part of this. Not only do you want no part of this, but the line's not even all that good anyways. It's minus 325 Jonathan Di Lorenzo. So if you're a friend of Di Lorenzo or you tape study this fight and you think I'm way off, and you think the price is totally justified, maybe I did not look into it all enough. But a guy's 1-0, taking on a guy that's 0-1. It's the very first fight on the card. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. And he's a minus 325. It's the kind of thing that little Cody wants no part of. So that's what we're rolling with. Again, I know it probably sounded like I wasn't overly confident. But just saying, if you were to take, you got your big favorite Jalon Bates, and we think he's going to win. Justin Montalvo, I like me. Justin Montalvo, I'm going to take him. I think Jordan Newman, even though he's minus 800, we're going to take Jordan Newman. That in itself is giving you 2-1. Not great. Brandon Ward, you throw Brandon Ward on like that, gives you the minus 130. Other guys that I would look at, Saeed Sowma, less than 2-1. I'm looking at Justine Kish, right? I think at that point in the ticket, you've gone low enough. You're going to have a Koreshkov, and that's 5-1. 5-1, you hit your lone underdog, which is Logan Storley, and you're looking at a plus 1,300 ticket, plus 1,296 to be exact. But basically a 13-1 ticket, and you've gone with your 7 favorites that you like, the key ones, a couple other ones that we do like, and you hit your one underdog. As far as Isaiah Hokit, he's 325. He can take a punch, right? Jonathan Di Lorenzo, very young in his career. It's a big price tag. Adam Piccolotti, Georgie Karakhanyanx, just got a bad gut feeling about that one. And I might be inclined to have a little action on Aviv Gozali. That would bring me up to 18-1, plus 1,800. But again, there's just a little bit of a sense that maybe at 21 years old, guy hasn't learned to wipe his ass yet, let alone win super high-profile fights in a premier mixed martial arts organization. Now, Bobby King is not a premier opponent, and Bellator is not considered the premier organization. I know what I was doing at 21, and I can't have great faith in a super young prospect who wins all of his fights in less than 2 minutes. So that's where I'll leave you at. That's the Bellator 274 preview. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Sorry that we're only one fight out. Weigh-ins are in now, so you can check out the weigh-ins and get that last bit of information. And then hopefully, coinciding with some of these UFC picks and hopefully a little bit of luck on the PFL Challenger Series, we can have a good night overall. So I will tag this crap up myself, throw it up live as soon as I can, and good luck, everybody, this weekend. Till the next time, I'll catch you guys later.